Today is September 10th. Where is the summer gone, I guess?
I know, and I just realized today is my 2.5 years of running every day for my run streak. So it's it is literally flying by. It seems crazy, but I never thought that would happen, but it has. So
Yeah. So today, because we're creeping into fall, summer's over, kids are back to school. It's a great time of the year because the weather starts to cool down a
yeah,
little bit. It's still
fall
hot.
races are on the forefront here. They're
Yeah.
they're coming up really quick. So hopefully you guys have been training well and doing all the things that you need to do all summer to get prepared for that. But we just want to go over some things. Maybe you're starting a training thing now, for a winter race, or you want to check to see if you're on board with setting up for the goal that you want to get.
Yeah, so we want to spend time going through this because, again, a lot of you guys are doing races. You've been sharing that with us, and so we're happy for you. We're here to motivate, hold you guys accountable. Today is about giving you those little tips so you don't do all this training and then ruin the race day, right? So there's some things leading up to the race that you can do wrong.
Yeah, but we've made
because we've made these mistakes.
Tons of mistakes. I've done a lot of races, ran a lot of miles, and I've made a lot of mistakes.
And so you learn by making those mistakes, and so that's why we want to share this with you guys, so you hopefully avoid some of those pitfalls as we get into this. So again, we're going to try to keep this short so you guys can enjoy your Saturday. We know you guys are watching live. If you can't, the replay is obviously available. So we will get going here so everybody can have a great rest of their weekend. So, so today is 5 training errors. And there's more. We might throw in a couple of bonus ones, but these are the most common ones. Yeah.
Kind of categories, and we'll talk a little bit about each of those. Just things that might seem obvious. It kind of seems obvious to me now, but like I said, when I was in the thick of it, I didn't follow it.
Yeah, and it's easy because it's human nature, right? So that's what we want to chat about today. As we say each week, none of this is medical advice. Please do your own research. We're sharing with you guys what we research because we have such a passion for all this, our health, healthy eating, so we can keep running as we get older, because we can overcome any obstacle in our life. You can too as well, right? So again, just a quick caveat. So again, today, training errors to avoid.
And if you guys have done races that have not gone well, you've made some critical errors, and I can attest to that. Like I said, I've done a lot of races, and I had a lot that did not go how I wanted them to go. So
it's disappointing because, again, you put in all this effort, right? So we're trying to avoid that. So last week, again, this was good. We got some good feedback on this about some of the spices to help you reduce inflammation so we can keep running, right? And it's so easy to eat the wrong foods to increase that inflammation, because as we know, running is an inflammatory activity.
So you don't want your food inflaming it too. So these were just some simple spices that you could add that actually scientifically proven to reduce inflammation. So we're always trying to mitigate the stress that we put on our bodies and mitigate the inflammation that can occur.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of these, and some of these, well, actually quite a few of them make your food taste better, which is hence another reason why you want to add them. I think, Steve, you mentioned where often you're going camping or going on a trip, and you're going to bring, or Don, that you were going to be bringing those with you. So kudos to you for recognizing that. And again, they're not that expensive to get. And if it's going to give you that benefit, those minor substitutions, as we talk all the time, will actually heed some positive results. So anyway, we'll get into today where we want to talk about these training errors to avoid. This is a good one that I learned when I first started focusing on doing races, and I learned from the best right here. So
the key is your training plan. There's tons of free information on there. There's tons of training plans that are out there. But no, any training plan out there is going to make some very assumptuous things about you and assume that you have a certain level of fitness. Any half marathon, I don't care if it's a 5K or a 10K, you can find all those training plans online, but they're going to assume that you have a base of running anywhere consistently from shorter races, 15 miles a week, to longer races, 30 miles a week consistently done for two months. at least, especially if you're doing a longer race. Picking a wrong goal pace at this point. I want to do a marathon, but I want to do a 4-hour marathon, or I want to do a 3-hour marathon. But A, I've never done a marathon before, or B, my time is 2 to 3 minutes off what it would take to pace myself at that marathon pace. Not realistic in a regular training plan, but if I type that into Google and ask for 4-hour marathoning training plan, they're going to give me the workouts that will get me there. But they are going to assume I have a level of fitness that's about 1 minute off per mile for that race.
Right. So it doesn't even have to be a marathon. It could be a half marathon or even a 10K, right?
Or a 5K.
Or a 5K. And
any of those things are going to make these assumptions.
Right. And so the thing that they're also not going to know, they're going to make an assumption. But again, think about this from your perspective, your lifestyle, your family, your work, your ability to get on get out and run, or however you're going to put those miles in. Your lifestyle is going to dramatically impact that. I know in previous jobs I've had, I was traveling so much, and so it was so hard to do that. I prefer not to run on the treadmill. But if you go to a certain city, you now have to navigate that city. And so all those types of things
factor those things
in as you're training, right? So one good example was I would travel out to New York City, and it's great to run in Central Park, but getting to the park was a big deal. So those are the types of little things. Mm-hmm. So again, they're assuming that in this situation that your lifestyle, they're not even thinking about that. And then you're not going to have that solid base, which is critical.
And you're not, you have to, any training thing that you're doing has to include strength training. You're going to have certain phases, especially the longer races that are going to have a base building, part, a race specific training part, and then a taper. You need to be doing strength training during all of that, except to the very end. It's going to be, ideally 3 days a week in the beginning. During the race specific goes to 2 days, but this has to be factored into your weekly. We're talking weekly training plan.
Yeah.
Speedworks need to be factored in to your training plan. You cannot be running the same exact pace for all of your mileage for the week and expect to get gains. And then you need 1 day of cross training. So all these workouts are part of your running. I know everyone wants to just focus on the running part of it, but this has to be planned out over a time that is realistically, because your best way of achieving it is being consistent with it. That's the only way you're going to achieve it.
Right. And so a mistake a lot of people make, again, is we've been focusing on this year is working on strength training. As we get older, we have to, because we want to avoid those injuries, right? And people are not thinking about this the right way. As we've said, you got to think about yourself as an athlete. You need to be training like an athlete, because if you do this, you are going to be so much happier with the race that you're going to do. And if you don't, you're going to recognize, God, I should have been doing that strength training. I should have been doing that cross training.
And these adaptations, just like with increasing your mileage, increasing all these things, these adaptations take weeks and weeks to do. So if you're progressing all of this at the same time, you're building up the strength to run faster, to run longer, to be able to do that. You're adding in the speed work to be able to get faster, to be able to build those different energy systems, the aerobic, and that part where you want to kick it in for the last couple miles of your race. These are all things that have to be, that you can absolutely adapt, but they take consistently doing it over time, week by week, slowly progressing it.
Yeah. And like anything in life, it's just the consistency. So just be careful with the training plan that you choose, because again, if you've not put any miles in or limited miles, and even if you want to run that 10K half, whatever, and
be honest
with yourself,
your fitness level, and give yourself enough time. If you can have lofty goals, if you give yourself enough time.
Yeah. That's like anything, right? If you give yourself enough time, you can do this. This one is one of my favorites because I love the 80-20 rule, because it's so applicable to everything in life. And I mean, everything, right? But, using the 80-20 rule is part of your running and your training.
It is part of, because you are going to be slowly, progressively increasing your intensity and increasing your mileage. So what is that doing? That's increasing the stress on your body. So you have to increase your recovery. You can only train as hard as you recover. So you're going to be training harder. you have to be recovering harder. So if you're not addressing that, if you're asking you're doing these extra workouts, you're doing all this stuff, but you have a work project that you're going to be starting along with this, ideally don't do that.
Right. I mean, again,
life is life, and you have to do these things, but no, you have to factor that in. Oh, I have this going on. I have X, Y, and Z, whatever that is. You can manage all that. Your body can handle all that if you give yourself enough recovery. So be smart about all of your runs, and you have to be purposeful with all your runs. And that 80% of all your training, no matter what it is, has to be at that slow aerobic recovery type runs. They have to be, those easy runs need to be easy so you can do your hard runs the way they're supposed to be. And I know we say this a ton, but people get this wrong. This is the biggest thing that they get wrong. They moderately hard and then not hard enough for their tendencies for the ones the race specific or speed workouts that they want. And then they wind up over stressing their body cumulatively with everything else going on. And they wind up getting injured or they get burnt out.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. And I love how, we got here not being purposeful with your workouts. Again, we got so much going on in our lives. It's so crazy. I'm guilty of this as well. You just have to stop and calm down and think about, okay, my goal is here. So I need to have this run be this purposeful. It may not be perfect, but you have to be thinking about that. And again, use 80-20.
And it will change for, like in Florida here. Some mornings it's really humid. Some mornings it's not that bad. There's a little bit of wind or whatever.
Yeah, then there's no wind, like today.
An easy run, it needs to be an easy run, not time, effort. So this is where you really have to go by your effort and still making sure it's an easy run. Test out. I've told you numerous times how to test that out. You want to see that your long run is easy enough that what you're doing, call someone on the phone. If you can have a conversation, most people run alone though. You're not going to be talking to yourself or singing out loud. Call someone and see if you can actually keep talking while you're running. That will give you that thing to kind of gauge. It's like, oh, wait, no, I don't feel like I'm struggling, but I am struggling a lot more. So make sure every run that you do, every workout that you do has the purpose of that workout.
Yeah. And that's critical again. So just think 80-20 rule, right? Just if you follow that, it'll help kind of guide you and keep you in the rail.
And that means 80% easy.
Yeah, easy. Exactly. And only 20% hard. And that's the same with your strength training, right? You can do some easy, consistent stuff. Again, you got to lift heavy, but don't be pushing it an hour in the gym and then a 3-hour run, right? That's going to burn you out and you're not going to be able to recover.
Yeah, you have to do that smart. Stick, just like with your running, just like training, weight training, slow, aggressive loads. That's what your body likes with everything. So don't try to make up for runs. Don't try to make up for fitness. Don't try to make up for anything. Slow, progressive is what's going to get you there.
Yeah. And I will say this as we're all getting older. Again, we're both in our 50s. Is that the strength training that we've focused on this year has really, I'm now noticing it. And it's been
It will
so
translate
grateful. It will translate,
running.
Absolutely. Because you start losing muscles, as we talked about, as you get older. You don't realize that, right? This is another one that we've made this mistake about not training for the course.
This is critical, especially if it's going to be a hilly course. If you like to travel, I traveled for.
We love to travel for races.
Every one of my races. So now, when I lived in Denver, it was easy to we have the foothills, we have all different types. I have dirt I can train on. There's a lot of things that I can mimic in my races. Now, being in Florida,
where it's flat. I mean, flat.
If I was to travel to do a race that has hills in it, I'm going to have to incorporate that into my long runs.
Yeah.
Not in my easy runs, in my long runs. Your long runs is practice for your race. Think of everything you do for your long run as mentally, as it's physically, but it is preparing you. That is your practice race.
And again, with every race nowadays, even the 10Ks, they have a flyover, especially with drones, right? But they'll have somebody or some video of the course to give you some kind of a feel. And of course, they're going to have the maps with the topography as well, where the hills are at,
They
the
have
elevation gains, right? So you're going to get an idea
throughout the whole race. So in Florida, you would have to find either a bridge. You can tell how long is it, a long and rolling. It'll show you on the map the mileage, how long. If it goes for this long, then okay, that's a slow winding hill. If it's short, then okay, that's going to be steep. So I need to practice some steep runs. Now you might, in Florida, you're probably going to have to do that on the treadmill, but doing that in a long run, mimicking that the best way, because it's when you are tired and having to do those, because you're running at a harder effort for that race, you're going to have to, the biggest chance of having something go wrong is hitting a hill when you're tired, going down a hill when you're really fatigued, when you don't have that form like it should be. These are things that can get you, cause big, increases for injury, or just suck the life out of you during a race. And none of us want that,
No. So I like this as well. I mean, it's obviously you don't know, but just watching the weather with all the apps nowadays, it's so easy to try to get a feel for the weather. But if you're traveling to a place and you already know the weather's forecast that time of year to be cooler, then try to at least plan for that as best you can. Obviously, we're in Florida now where it's hot. If we were going to go up to the northern states or someplace else in the world, we're going to try to plan for that as best we can. Like the last marathon that she did, we were in Norway. And it rained, and we planned, but not really.
I didn't plan at all. Right. I'm one of those runners that I've never worn a jacket. I've never worn anything because I'm like, I would rather be cold than be hot. I was very heat sensitive because I always ran, like I said, in Denver. That one was literally pouring down rain.
Yeah, pouring rain.
35-degree weather with about 10 to 15 miles. And it was the first time like, I have my singlet and my shorts and so
but we survived. But just try to plan for the
had to go out.
Right. So. But try to plan the weather as best you can. And this is another one that I was super guilty of, is practicing your fueling and more importantly, hydration for the race.
I believe in carrying. Most runners don't carry for races. They don't carry water. I believe in it because I'd rather slowly sip than stopping, because if you plan on that, you've been carrying a water bottle or you've been able to, on your run, you're going to have to do it that way. But if you're not going to have that during the race, you're going to have those little cups. So you're going to have to practice doing and drinking
from those cups. That's a thing that people don't realize, right?
And you're going to have to practice that. If you can't, it takes a skill to be able to take that paper cup, drink that, keep running, without coughing all of your.
That's good. Then you're going to cough, swallow it wrong, and now you're thrown off, right?
Yeah. The key is keep it in your mouth for a little bit, and then take your breath, and then then swallow it. If you practice this, you will figure this out.
Yeah.
But don't practice this during the race. Don't anything that you are going to have it on you. Like I said, I still see, I'd say 80% of the people that don't carry water on them, even for marathons, which always shocked me. So you have to practice this with little paper cups, trying to run and get enough water.
And even if you choose to do the gels or any kind of a fuel during the race, especially a longer one where they're going to offer this, right? You have to practice.
Bring your own.
Bring your own. Don't take theirs. Yeah.
But you have to practice
opening the thing up unless you want to stop, which is fine, but it's going to throw you off. You don't realize this until you get into the race. And if you're going to run, you're going to grab that cup. Now you're like, oh, darn it. Then it just throws you off. And so it's going to impact.
Those little tiny things that throw you off
are huge.
Are huge.
And we know this because we made that mistake.
Yeah.
That's why.
So practice a little extra fueling or whatever, because if the conditions, if it's colder or if it's hotter, your body's going to have to work harder to regulate your temperature, and you're going to be running faster pace for a longer distance than you've done.
Right.
So all these things are extra. So you practice doing an extra gel or so during your long runs to see if can your stomach handle extra fuel. But you don't want to tank in the middle of the race and have to take extra instant sugar. Doesn't do well with the digestive system if you've not practiced it and you've not trained that. So always train that, everything, the scenarios in your long runs. That is your practice, and you should have multiple practices. So when you get to race day, you've got it, no matter what is happening.
Yeah. So if you do the right training, the race will be enjoyable, right? And that is one with the fueling, the hydration that a lot of people miss because they just aren't thinking about it.
That is why you hit the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't train enough, and you got your nutrition wrong.
Your nutrition wrong, and it's typically the nutrition because you didn't practice it on your longer runs. So do that while you're practicing.
No one should hit the wall.
Yeah, nobody really should. Although we've done it before. We made that mistake,
because
right?
we've made those mistakes. But if you train properly, you will not hit the wall. But you have to, the taper, everyone's heard about this. Everyone knows about this. If you looked at any training schedule, if you've had one, 2 to 3 weeks, they have you cutting your mileage. Why do they do that? The taper is allowing your body, you've hit your max, your long run. If it's a marathon, it's probably 20 to 22 miles. I always did 22 miles just to make it seem better, but you don't really need to do more than 3 hours, but that's something you'll figure out, for yourself if you've done these. And, for a half marathon, you probably hit 13. You're going to back off. Now, people think it's reducing the amount of days that they run or reducing the intensity. No, it's only reducing the volume. If you've been running 5 days a week, you're still going to run 5 days a week. You're going to reduce the volume. If you've been doing speed work, which you should be doing, you're still going to be doing that speed work. You're just going to reduce the volume of that. So instead of a 6-mile tempo run, it's going to be a 3-mile tempo run. You're not changing the intensity. You cannot drop the intensity because that is what you've built up. That is what your neuromuscular, that whole connection is there. So you're not going to lose fitness if you just reduce the volume. That's going to allow you're always reducing. You're never adding. This is not anywhere to add. I just want to make sure that I can do this. Worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
You're going to start panicking and question your training. Trust your training, and your fitness is what it is. Nothing you do in those last 2 to 3 weeks is going to change that. You have to look at it as only reducing, recovering, and rejuvenating your body for all the hard work it's done, so then you can perform on race day.
Right. So as we say here, don't get stressed out because it's so easy when you start to realize, oh, I've only got so much. Am I really prepared? You start stressing out, and that's the last thing you want to do. So you want to give yourself enough time so you can do these proper taper runs. Because if you don't do the taper runs, you're going to put added stress on your body, which is what you don't want, which is going to
that's going to directly affect how you perform.
100% going to affect that. And why do we know that? Because we made that mistake. That's why.
So trust that your training is what it is. You're not adding anything. You're reducing, re-energizing, revitalizing your body so it can do what it needs to do.
Yeah. So keep it simple. Use the 80-20 rule. It's so critical.
And now we just want to go over just some best practices. Having an unrealistic marathon goal pace.
Or half, doesn't matter.
Or a half, or any distance.
Doesn't matter, 10K.
That's probably.
5K.
Can you be optimistic or whatever, but holding yourself to that specific time and then making the mistake of trying to practice that time for too long. Yes, you're going to have short race specific times built into if you have a proper training schedule and your race specific time of that, but it's not going to be, don't start getting towards the end and be like, I need to do one of my long runs at my marathon goal pace. I'm going to do an 18-mile long run. I want my marathon pace to be a 9-minute mile. So I'm going to do my whole run that.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to do it.
Even though on my schedule it says, oh, it's supposed to be a 10 to 11-minute mile. No, I'm going to test to see if I can. This is what's going to show me if my training's right. That is going to tank you.
Yeah, that is gonna, because mentally it's gonna play on you. Your body's not gonna be able to
Physically.
handle it, and so you're gonna start to unravel and start to go down, and it's just not worth it
And
because you
people
don't need
tend
to.
to, people tend to do this towards the end, before they're tapered. For God's sake, don't do it during your taper. But even doing it, 4 weeks out, 5 weeks out, because you're like, oh, I've been doing all my long runs. They've been kind of easy. You can do race specific workouts. They're going to be a small part of your long run. You're only going to do those maybe one every 2 weeks, not even every week. Those are very hard workouts. Those are very hard things that take a lot more stress out of you. And it's still not going to be running your whole entire long run. It's literally going to be a fast finish is doing 3 miles of an 18-mile run towards the end when you're tired, trying to run a little faster.
Yeah. Because you what people forget, and again, we're the same way, is if you want to run a fast race, that's great. But when you get to the actual event, just the people, the energy, all that stuff is going to basically pull you to run faster in all likelihood if you've done the right training.
But if you try to do a race specific, that is like you trying to do a marathon 3-4 weeks before your marathon, because you're going to be at the height of your mileage during the week. You're going to be the height of your training. And then you're going to ask your body to run a 16-mile, 18-mile run at your goal pace.
That will set you up to fail.
It sounds like it would get you prepared. What it's
but
going to do is you've accumulated all this stress that you've been slowly doing, and then you are quadrupling the stress on your body, and that is going to tank your results probably bigger than anything. Any one thing that could get you at the end would be doing that. Trust how it's been built into your workout, trust how your plan is, and know towards the end, whatever you've worked up for is whatever it's going to be.
Right. So just give yourself enough time, do the right training, and then for God's sake, give yourself enough grace and just enjoy. The whole point of doing this is to enjoy it. You're trying to reach a goal, yes, but you want to enjoy it, right? And so if you do all these little mistakes along the way, you're going to end up not enjoying it, which it defeats the entire purpose.
When you're so focused on that time, and it's especially if you're trying to qualify for Boston or something like that, and you're putting such pressure on yourself, that's how you get burnt out. That's how you wind up your training and all this stuff. Yeah, it's hard. Yes, it's, you're not going to be like, oh, I love running 20-mile runs, and all that stuff. You love the effort of how, when you get done, and the feeling that it gives you and the fitness that it gives you, but you still have to enjoy the process.
Yeah, it's all about the process, because consider this, you're going through a transformation. Even if you run a half before, you're still going through a transformation. Your body's at a different point in time. So again, you're transforming yourself. And I just realized we're going for a little while longer here.
Yeah. It's all worth it.
It's all worth it. Exactly.
But
so
do it smartly. Don't make the mistakes that we made, and follow these best practices, and congratulate yourself on whatever your race turns out to be.
Exactly. Because everything will work out. It's going to propel you forward for greatness if you follow a training plan and you're consistent. And so you want to have a fun day, right? That's the whole point of this, is you want to enjoy that race
absolutely
as best you can. And so we want you to enjoy it, because it's so much fun, right? We've all done those races, and that's when you get done and you're in the environment afterwards, it is so much fun. And you look back and say, man, it was so worth it. And I'm glad I didn't make these mistakes. And if you did, you're going to realize I made these mistakes. And we say, and then it's okay. We've done this. It's
because
okay.
You know what? Exactly. There's always another race.
Exactly.
There's always another race. So congratulate yourself. Whether it went well, whether it didn't went well, you still did it.
So for those of you who are training for races right now, keep going. Post some pictures in the group if you want to.
Stay positive. I know you guys have. A lot of you guys have.
Hold yourself accountable. And if you haven't signed up for one yet, now is the time to think about it, because there's now plenty of fall races as we get into winter. Now that the weather's cooling down, now's the time to think about it if you haven't done that yet.
So we have races in January, we have February. Those longer races, you got to give yourself enough time.
Yeah. So anyway, on that, we're going to end today. And you guys have yourself a great Saturday, and we will talk again soon.
Happy Saturday, everyone.